Hello, today let's discuss the subtle confrontations between China and the US before their leaders meet. This time, it might be the first time the US F-22 fighter jet has faced off against the J-16. This is a classic case of a non-stealth fighter suppressing a stealth fighter. Recently, unusual moves in China-US relations. On the surface, the war of words between the two sides cooled, but in reality, hidden attacks continue, all aimed at the end of this month, possibly during the APEC summit in South Korea. During the China-US Leaders Summit, CCTV revealed a near-air combat encounter. Chinese fighter jets fully locked onto what appeared to be an American aircraft. The footage is rare, showing a real two-on-two dogfight between Chinese and US fighter jets. Let's find out how unmanned aerial vehicles can assist main fighter jets in combat. At midnight on October 2nd, CCTV's military social media updated with a special Sunday parade documentary Victory, in which Li Zhao, a pilot from the Special Aircraft Formation, shared his account. He piloted a J-16 fighter jet in 2024 and confronted a foreign stealth fighter, eventually driving it away. Mainland media personality Brother De pointed out that many people have overlooked some important details. According to CCTV's Pang Bai, this was, up to now, the only encounter of its kind, and after that meeting, the opposing fighter jet has not appeared near China's coastal waters again. There have been multiple public reports of US F-3 fighter jets confronting our forces and being driven away. So, the foreign military jet Li Zhao drove was likely not an F-35, but an F-22. First, we need to understand the differences between the American F-35 and F-22 fighter jets. The F-22 Raptor is a heavy tactical fighter designed to seize air superiority. The F-35 Lightning is a multi-role fighter jet, smaller than the heavy F-22 Raptor. This heavy air superiority fighter gains control of the skies. Besides stealth, it emphasizes supersonic cruising, powerful maneuverability, and its weapons bay is designed for air combat. The smaller F-35 Lightning is a multi-role fighter focusing on information awareness, connectivity, and flexible mission capabilities. It's widely used for air-to-ground attacks or intelligence support. It doesn't match the F-22 in speed, maneuverability, payload, or stealth. The F-35 provides precise battlefield intelligence to Allied aircraft from a fourth position during combat. Regarding US and Japan conducting aerial harassment and reconnaissance, the US has normalized deployments in our maritime areas, carrying out forward reconnaissance, shows of force, and tactical probing. They use F-35s. The US collects intelligence. They collect strategic aircraft radar signatures, electronic signals, and pilots' reaction patterns. In CCTV footage, fighter pilot Li Zhao is from the Western Theater Command Air Force. These encounters with enemy aircraft happened while he was stationed along the coast for training, pointing to the East China Sea or South China Sea direction. This area is a hotspot where US and Japanese Air Self-Defense Force F-35s are most active. Although the public saw the CCTV footage and thought foreign stealth fighters were at a distance, the idea that these were F-35s fits with what most people would assume, but we need to pay attention to some details. This was a two-on-two fighter engagement. On our side, Li Zhao was piloting a J-16 fighter jet along with his unmanned wingman, while on the other side, there were two stealth fighters, one of which might also have been an unmanned wingman. In the interview, he revealed some little-known scenes from this two-on-two aerial battle. He said the other side charged straight at our two planes, which tells us something. The enemy pilots were extremely confident, and their tactical maneuvers were very aggressive. Analyzing the situation, Li Zhao described, if the opposing pilots were flying F-35s, they shouldn't have had that kind of blind confidence when facing the much larger, higher thrust-to-weight ratio, and far more maneuverable J-16s. But if they were flying F-22s, which are heavy air superiority fighters, then everything makes sense. The F-22 wouldn't be afraid to go up against the J-16, so it and drones would charge at the J-16 formation. The F-22, a fifth-generation stealth fighter, rarely sends signals and hasn't been exported. In recent years, it's also rarely seen publicly. Its bases are in the US and Alaska. In the Asia-Pacific, it's usually deployed rotationally for short periods at Kadena Air Base in Okinawa, Japan. These bases are limited as the F-22 is expensive to maintain. Its price tag is astonishing, reaching $350 million, making it extremely valuable. Not deployed as frequently as the F-35. When the F-22 is sent out, it carries out ultimate mission or test. They use powerful air combat force to test China's elite fighter jets, the J-16 or J-20. An ace versus ace showdown, if they expect a serious opponent, it's the F-22. Talking about the scenario where both sides face off, Li Chao said during their first encounter, he locked onto the enemy's lead aircraft, and the opponent's wingman immediately broke away from the dogfight and, in turn, locked onto him. He took advantage and pulled the plane up, performed a barrel roll, flew inverted above the opponent's head, locking onto the enemy's main aircraft. CCTV stated the J-16 fighter jet used the maneuver of flying inverted canopy to canopy, but the closest distance between them was only 10 to 15 meters. When the two foreign stealth fighters realized they were locked on, they chose to retreat. There's a lot of information packed into these sentences, so let's break it down. First of all, in air combat, locking on means that the fighter jet's fire control radar has already stabilized and is providing continuous tracking data on the target, which means it's likely to hit the target at medium range. Even the infrared-guided missiles are already in a ready-to-fire state. The fact that the J-16 was able to lock on to what was possibly an F-22 first shows that, at a certain distance and angle, the J-16's radar can detect the F-22's position, offsetting the F-22's stealth advantage. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that the J-16 was simultaneously supported by ground-based or airborne early warning aircraft. For example, it might have approached the enemy quietly, keeping radar off to avoid detection, and only switched on the radar to lock on at the last moment before firing. Next, as Li Zhao mentioned, he pulled up the aircraft to perform a barrel roll. The barrel roll is a classic air combat maneuver that serves both offensive and defensive purposes. The fighter doesn't spin in a circle, but flies along a spiral path like a barrel. It can circle a target, or its own axis, a 360 roll to seize positional advantage. If spiral flight path is hard to predict, it can throw off enemy judgment. When Li Zhao faced intruding aircraft threatening territorial waters, he didn't choose simple head-on confrontation, try to break away. Instead, he used J-16's excellent thrust-to-weight ratio and maneuverability to pull up nose, turning disadvantage of being late to react in horizontal engagement into vertical during barrel roll, countering intruders' advantage. The barrel roll allows the J-16 to shift its position in three-dimensional space, making it unpredictable and breaking the enemy's tracking during attempts to disengage from the dogfight, preventing a lock. This is an advantage of the barrel roll maneuver. The key step is to seize a deadly attack position. As long as Li keeps his movement steady, he can precisely bring himself directly above the enemy fighter, cockpit facing cockpit, just 10 meters apart, visually identifying and locking onto the intruding aircraft below. This is an oppressive position. You can easily aim at the helicopter with the cannon under the nose, and launch an unavoidable attack with the PL-10 dogfight missile. For the F-22 pressed below, it's difficult for its nose to quickly point at the J-16, putting it in a passive and vulnerable situation. This is also the positional advantage of the J-16's barrel roll. In the end, Instructor Li said he locked onto both targets at the same time. After making it clear he had the positional advantage, his fire control system simultaneously covered both the main aircraft, still suppressed and on alert, and the unmanned drone that had already escaped the attack zone. This is a double-kill scenario. If this were a real war, as soon as the J-16 pilot pressed launch, he could competently score a kill. The F-22 is America's most advanced ace fighter jet, for domestic use only, not export. If even it can be driven away by a Chinese fighter, and looking at the details, it's even a classic dogfight maneuver by the Chinese jet. Using a top-down circling maneuver to lock on and drive the US military away, a complete defeat. CCTV said that after this, fighter jets haven't appeared near China's coastal waters. The F-35 appeared near China's coast after. The opponent was a top-tier stealth fighter. The encounter showed aggressive tactics, a showdown between top aces, and this was a one-off confrontation that made the other side stop using this aircraft model near territory. To satisfy all 3 points, the fighter jet locked on must have been the US military's F-22, the only logical answer. The F-22 couldn't have been a Japanese jet, as the US never exported it. In sum, this incident was likely a direct confrontation with America's fifth-generation stealth fighter, the F-22. This clean and decisive victory shouldn't be seen as a successful interception. It's a classic case of a non-stealth fighter suppressing a stealth fighter. The F-22 was on a deep tactical probing mission, but unfortunately, it ran into Li Zhao, who was at the peak of his technical skills and determination, as well as the J-16 he was piloting. This shows that in modern aerial combat, advanced equipment, top pilots, and a complete operational system are all indispensable. None can be missing. The US military's fighter jets are advanced, but they fall short in the other 2 aspects. Thirdly, the US designed the F-22 as an air superiority fighter to seize control of the skies. As a result, the F-22 was designed with stealth, but with outstanding maneuverability and very strong maneuverability. Sadly, the cost was too high, $350 million, so after producing 187 F-22s, production halted. The US used the lighter, cheaper F-35 as air superiority fighter. When former Defense Secretaries Rumsfeld and Gates decided, they underestimated the rise of the Chinese Air Force. They didn't anticipate their massive need for air superiority fighters. Later, studies showed the US needed 381 F-22 air superiority fighters to maintain air dominance. Now, with CCTV releasing this case where the J-16 may have suppressed the F-22, it shows that even before China has rolled out the J-20, they're able to achieve this. This highlights a major flaw in the US military's fighter jet deployment. Fourth, China chose to announce this important case of the J-16 locking onto a target at this moment, a message at the US. Trump wants to meet President Xi in Korea at month's end. Before meeting, both sides will test each other behind scenes. By releasing news about militarily suppressing US, China pressures Americans. US military will brief Trump on last year's events. This move aims to dampen American arrogance,